Hi, I'm Isla and welcome back to my channel. Hopefully you're having a good start to the year. I've had a slightly mixed January. I've had lots of things go wrong in the house. I've had to have the roof done or the roof slightly fixed, and the cat's been unwell, so I've been back and forth to the vet. So it's been a little bit more frantic than I'd hoped for. Usually at this time of year things are quite quiet, so I try and get my head down and do some new designs for fabric and wallpaper, and sometimes it takes me a little bit of a while to kind of settle into that. Often I make a few bad designs and then I sort of find something that really works, and then that's really exciting. I want to talk about a book that my lovely friend Jenny recommended, and I ordered it straight away. Found an old copy. It's called 11 Montpellier Street, Memoirs of an Interior Decorator by Jean Monro. And of course she knew I'd love it because I am obsessed with Jean Monro fabrics. Jean Monro had a fascinating life, and she was born in 1916, but during the Second World War in 1942, I think, she joined the ATS, which was the Auxiliary Territorial Service, and that was an auxiliary service where women could join up as soldiers and then do the work that men would do, so that they were freed up to go to the front line. I thought about the Queen quite a lot when I read this book, because famously she joined the ATS aged 18 in 1945, but I think Jean was a bit older. I think she was sort of 25 or 26 when she joined. I'm very interested and humbled when I read about people who've had careers interrupted by military service. My own career has been very sort of linear. I went to art school and I studied and I went straight into the workforce, and now I work for myself. I can't imagine how hard it must have been to sort of go back to ordinary life after she'd driven ambulances and seen all sorts of unimaginable things, and she even became a gunner girl. So it must have been particularly life-altering. In 1946, so after the war, Jean goes to work with her mother, who's already established an incredible reputation as an interior designer with her business Mrs. Monro Limited, and their business is run out of 11 Montpellier Street, so hence the title. It sounds like her mother was an incredible mentor and had real sort of determination and grit, and she was very honest about lots of sides of the business. So cash flow could quite often be very, very tight, and there were lots of moments of crisis averted. So she describes one scenario where they're doing a big install, a big country house, and I think the modern day equivalent of sort of thousands of pounds have been spent on these huge curtains, and at the moment when they're installed, they realised that the pelmet, I think the depth of the pelmet wasn't right, and it didn't cover the gap between the architrave and the wall correctly, and it just looked terrible. And her mother had this complete sort of vision at the last second to turn it the other way around and make it look like it was sort of, you know, intentionally meant to be like that, only to have the water pipes burst on them and the entire room sort of flooded. Meanwhile, the clients are downstairs, so she has to sort of pacify them. And there are a couple of quotes that I'd like to read you from the book, which I think describe her mother very well. On page 49, she says, "One of the qualities I admired most in my mother was her great courage in adversity. I remember her saying to my father when things were particularly difficult financially, 'I shall never give in.' She never did either, when lack of money was the problem, or many years later when she knew she had at the most a year to live. But it was her presence of mind that amazed me." Later on, she goes on to have a very interesting chapter in her career, because she starts designing ships, cabins and ocean liners. In fact, she's the first woman to design an ocean liner. And actually this was the second moment that I really thought about the Queen, because it really had echoes of Britannia and how sort of cosy it looked, and the Queen adored it, and so it had sort of memories of that again. But she describes one episode where she sails to Cape Town and she's gone into a force 9 gale, which somebody literally tells her about the moment she sort of steps onto the ship, and she says she looks out of the porthole and there's a wave crashing over the size of St. Paul's, and they basically all have to hunker down for about 3 days. And I'll read a quick quote where she says, "I drew my curtains and I didn't look out again for about 3 days. I'd been sent wonderful bunches of flowers by my family and friends, and they were flying around the cabin like Sputniks." She goes on to say, "It was hardly safe to negotiate the alleyways, much less the stairs. A diet of Rivita and champagne was all I could face, and we sailed into calmer seas. We all appeared looking a little bit wan, but could face the dining room again." I really don't think I could survive on a diet of Rivita and champagne or be in a force 9, but there you go. One of the downsides of the book is that the pictures aren't quite as lavish as you'd hope. These are some of the colour ones. There's lots of black and white. And I think it's more a book where you kind of need to use your imagination a little bit. Here's some of the ocean liner ones. There's also a lot of name dropping. I don't come from a society background, so I don't know all the names, but they're people that did amazing things, and it's wonderful that she's sort of acknowledged all of their hard work. She worked so hard herself. She started up a chintz revival business, seeing that all these incredible old 18th century, 19th century prints were going out of production because production was being outsourced, and she decided to put them back into production and sell them. So that was an amazing new start to her business. She also worked on the Bath Preservation Committee, which is another subject quite close to my heart because I went to school in Bath and I love it and I miss it so much. So she just worked incredibly hard, and I think that I'm always interested in books like this because I love reading about women who have had really long careers. I've always imagined working for a long time myself and designing right up until the moment that I, can possibly can. And she really sort of epitomised a woman who'd, not only inherited a family business, had huge respect for her mother and what she did, but also built on that legacy. And I really enjoyed it from that respect, and I really respect everything that she built and created. She went on to buy a house in Provence, and I think enjoyed that immensely and entertaining, and it was just an incredibly rich life. So there you go. I loved it, and thank you very much, Jenny. I am sorry I look like the Michelin Man. I've got literally about 3 jumpers on. It's absolutely freezing in the UK at the moment, and my great granny Isla knitted this jumper, so I think she'd be happy to see me in it. And if you have any recommendations of books that you think I'd like, I would so love to hear any recommendations. They're always good. I'm always looking for new things to read and listen to. So I'll see you soon, hopefully.